You don't deserve a single penny, Amina. It's better if everything goes to your sister. That sentence, cold, sharp, spoken by my own mother, hit me harder than any slap ever could. I remember standing there, a spoon still in my hand from stirring tea, frozen in my kitchen like the world had stopped spinning. And all I could think was, how did I reach the age of 40 and still end up being treated like the unwanted child in my own parents' home? The morning light was spilling across the floor, catching the steam rising from the pot. The smell of cardamom tea filled the room, but I couldn't taste or smell anything anymore. I felt heat rising under my skin, the kind that doesn't come from anger alone, but from years of being invisible. My sister, Zara, stood behind my mother, smirking, barely hiding her delight. She didn't even pretend to feel bad. And why would she? She had always been the favorite. The sun apparently rose and set on her, even when she treated everyone like accessories in her life instead of people. If you're still here, welcome to Voice of Jenna, a place where stories aren't just told, they're felt. Here, we dive into real emotions, family drama, quiet heartbreaks, unexpected twists, and the moments that change us. So sit back, relax, and let me tell you what happened next. I took a deep breath. What do you mean? I asked, even though I knew exactly what they meant. The papers on the table, a thin file of crisp documents, felt like a knife waiting to be twisted. My father kept glancing at them as if they were a blessing, not a betrayal. We've decided, my mother said, lifting her chin as though she were announcing something noble. Zara will receive the main house and the land. You have your own life now. You manage on your own. You're independent. Independent. That word has never felt like a compliment. Not when it's used to erase you. I stared at the three people who were supposed to be my family. My father wouldn't look directly at me, which told me everything I needed to know. Guilt only bites the ones who know they're in the wrong. And Zara? She crossed her arms like someone who had already won. But this isn't where my story begins. The truth is, this moment had been building for years. I'm Amina, 40 years old, the eldest daughter who stayed behind when Zara left to find herself, whatever that meant. I'm the one who drove my parents to every checkup, handled the home repairs, managed their paperwork, and sat alone in emergency rooms while Zara posted pictures of sunsets from beaches I couldn't pronounce. I've always lived a simple life. Not luxurious, not perfect, but honest. I live in a small town on the outskirts of Birmingham, in a modest two-bedroom rented house where the walls have cracks, but the memories don't. I work as a mid-level administrative manager at a logistics firm. Not glamorous, but steady. My coworkers say I'm the calm one, organized, dependable, the woman who holds everything together even when everyone else loses their mind. Maybe that's why this betrayal hurts so much. I've always held everything together except my own heart. My days are quiet. I wake up before the sun, make a pot of tea, look out the window at my street, lined with old brick houses and kids' bicycles thrown on the grass, and wonder if life was supposed to be bigger than this. I used to believe it would be. After divorce, after losing my home, after starting over at 32, I promised myself that I would rebuild a life where no one could take anything from me. Ironically, the one thing that wasn't in my control was the inheritance my grandparents had left behind. A piece of land, almost 15 acres, passed down through generations. It wasn't just property. It was history. It was roots. And I cherished it because my grandparents cherished me. They always said, Amina, you see people with your heart first. Never lose that. And somehow, they made me feel seen in ways my parents never did. My mother swept the file toward Zara. She's settled. She doesn't need it. Settled. Another lie dressed as flattery. Being single at 40 apparently meant I didn't need dignity or fairness. Why didn't you talk to me first? I whispered. My voice shook, not from fear, but from exhaustion. My father shifted in his seat. We thought it was best for the family. Family. Funny how that word always seems to benefit only certain members. I stepped back, feeling the kitchen suddenly too small, suffocating, as if the walls were leaning in to hear every crack in my heart. Something inside me twisted painfully, not just hurt, but disappointment so raw I could taste it. That's when I felt it, the smallest flicker of defiance. 40 years of being the quiet one, the helper, the reliable daughter who never complained. And for what? To be pushed aside like a piece of old furniture?
No.
Not again. I grabbed my bag from the chair, ignoring Zara's triumphant smirk. Where are you going? My mother snapped. Home, I said, forcing my voice steady. To think. You're overreacting, Zara sang. I turned toward her slowly. Our eyes locked. We may share blood, but in that moment, we were strangers. You've always taken, I said softly. But this time, you're going to explain why you deserve what was never yours to begin with. Her smile wavered, just a little. I walked out. The cold air hit my face like a slap, but for once, I welcomed it. Each breath felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The sky was heavy with clouds, the kind that promised rain. And as I walked to my car, feeling my hands tremble, I whispered to myself, this isn't over. And it truly wasn't. Because what I didn't know yet, and what none of us knew, was that my grandparents had left behind something much bigger than land. Something hidden. Something waiting. A twist that would shake every single one of us. And this betrayal? It was only the beginning. I woke up the next morning with that sharp, heavy ache behind my ribs, the kind you get after crying silently in your sleep without realizing it. The sun was barely up, a pale orange line cutting across my curtains. My alarm hadn't even rung yet, but sleep was impossible after everything that had happened. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of yesterday sink deeper. A part of me wished it were just a bad dream, but the bitterness in my chest reminded me it wasn't. By 7 a.m., I was already dressed. Dark trousers, my usual work cardigan, hair pinned up in the no-nonsense way that made me look more composed than I felt. Work wasn't exciting, but it gave me structure, something dependable, unlike my family. As I stepped outside, a crisp wind brushed against my face. The neighbor's bins clattered against the pavement, and a distant dog barked. Normal life. Ordinary sounds. But somehow everything felt sharper. Like my senses didn't trust anything anymore. Work was a 20-minute drive away. The roads were quiet, the sky low and gray. I kept replaying that moment in the kitchen, my mother's tone, Zara's smirk, my father's silence. And I hated it. Not just what they did, but how easily they believed I would just accept it. When I reached the office, I forced a smile at the receptionist, Nadia, who always wore bright lipstick and had a voice too loud for mornings. You're early again, she said, raising an eyebrow. You okay? You look tired. I shrugged. Didn't sleep well. She nodded in that knowing way women over 30 understand, without explanation. If it's family, just breathe. They can drive anyone insane. A dry laugh escaped me. Something like that. The office smelled faintly of coffee and printer ink. The heating was too warm, as always. My desk sat near the window, where I kept a small plant my colleague Sam gifted me last year, a stubborn little thing that somehow survived my inconsistent watering. Sometimes I felt like that plant, surviving despite negligence. By mid-morning, Sam popped his head over the divider. He was in his early 50s, bald on top with a mischievous sense of humor and the kind of soft heart he pretended not to have. Morning, boss, he said teasingly. You seem distracted. I sighed. Family drama. Oof. He leaned back dramatically. Say no more. That's worse than taxes and toothaches combined. I managed a small smile. They're trying to give away something that's mine. Something important. He whistled under his breath. Money. Land.
Ah.
He clicked his tongue. Land is thicker than blood, sometimes. People change fast when ownership is involved. His words hit me harder than I expected. People do change around money. Or maybe money reveals what they were all along. The day dragged on. I typed reports, answered calls, sat through meetings where people argued pointlessly about delivery schedules. But in the back of my mind, something kept scratching at me, a sense that yesterday was not just a fight. It was the beginning of something bigger, something more dangerous. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my father. "We'll talk next week. Let emotions settle." Not your emotions. Emotions. As though this betrayal was a simple disagreement over dinner. I locked my phone, swallowed the rising frustration, and stepped outside to get some air. The sky was darker now, heavy with unshed rain. The wind tugged at my clothes, carrying that cold metallic smell that always comes before a storm. As I stood there, staring at the moving clouds, a realization washed over me quietly. My parents weren't done. This wasn't a one-time decision. Something else was happening behind my back. Something Zara was benefiting from. That thought felt like a cold hand closing around my spine. When I returned inside, Nadia called out, "Oh, your sister dropped by this morning." I froze.
Zara?
"Here." She nodded. She didn't say much. "Just asked for your schedule. I told her you were at your desk." My heart dropped. Zara hadn't visited my workplace in over a decade. She never cared about where I worked or what I did. So why now? I didn't like the answer forming in my mind. During the last hour of work, I couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting to the door, half expecting Zara to show up again with another smirk and another reason to ruin my day. By the time I clocked out, clouds had broken open into a steady drizzle. I grabbed my umbrella, pulled my coat tight, and stepped into the rain. The air smelled like wet pavement, like something cleansing and dangerous at the same time. On my drive home, I kept thinking about my grandparents. Two steady, gentle people who always treated me like I mattered. My grandmother used to tell me, "Truth always finds its way, Amina, even if it has to crawl through the mud." I wondered what she'd say now. Would she tell me to fight? Would she tell me to walk away? Or would she simply hold me the way she used to and whisper that everything would be okay? When I reached home, the house felt colder than usual. I set my bag down, kicked off my wet shoes, and warmed my hands around a mug of tea. The flavors, ginger, cloves, should have comforted me. Instead, they only brought memories. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. A single sharp chime that echoed through the house. My chest tightened. Somehow, I already knew. When I opened the door, Zara stood there, wearing that overconfident smile she inherited from our mother. Her umbrella dripped water onto my doorstep. Her perfume, something expensive and suffocating, rolled into my hallway without permission. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice sweet like honey laced with poison. My stomach twisted. "What now?" She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Typical Zara. Always entering spaces as though she owned them. She looked around my small living room, her lips curling slightly. "You really live like this?" That stab wasn't accidental. It was intentional, calculated,
Precise.
"What do you want, Zara?" I asked quietly. She turned to me, eyes gleaming with a strange satisfaction. "Mummy and Papa didn't explain everything yesterday," she said. "There's more." She paused, letting the silence stretch painfully. "And you're not going to like it." Her words hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. I felt something heavy settle inside my chest. This was no longer subtle tension. This was the beginning of the real fight. And deep down, I sensed it, whatever twist my grandparents left behind. Zara knew something I didn't. And she wasn't here to warn me. She was here to win. The documents lay sprawled across Alex's dining table like jagged pieces of a truth she wasn't ready to face. Her hands hovered above them, trembling slightly, as if touching the papers might make everything more real. Outside, evening clouds gathered low and heavy, casting shadows across the room, shadows that seemed to move with the same unease churning inside her. Oliver sat across from her, his elbows on the table. "Alex," he said softly, "you need to breathe." She tried, but the air came in shallow bursts. Her name, the one thing she always felt disconnected from her family, was scratched out with thick, deliberate strokes. It wasn't an oversight. It was a message. Why would they do this? Alex whispered, her voice cracking. This estate was supposed to be split. Fairly. That's what grandfather always said. That's what he promised. Oliver's jaw tightened. Looks like someone convinced them otherwise. A bitter laugh escaped her. Rachel. Of course. Her phone vibrated on the table. The screen flashed Rachel. Alex exchanged a look with Oliver, a look of dread, resignation, and anger beginning to simmer beneath the surface. She picked up the call.
Alex.
Great. You got the papers, Rachel chirped, her tone annoyingly bright, as if discussing a brunch reservation. Explain, Alex said, keeping her voice steady. There was a pause. The kind of pause where someone chooses their next lie carefully. Mom and Dad felt it was the right thing to do. I mean, you've been distant. You moved away. You don't visit. You don't help with anything. I help, Alex snapped. Just not in the ways you want. Rachel sighed dramatically. Look, you've always been the one who wanted independence.
You don't need the estate, Alex.
I do. I'm planning a family, a future. And, honestly, you never cared about that house. That house, Alex said slowly, her voice turning cold, is the one place grandfather said belonged to both of us. He made that very clear. Well, Rachel replied, her tone shifting into something sharper, colder. Grandfather isn't here anymore to say otherwise. The words hit Alex like a slap. Oliver stood abruptly, pacing in silent frustration. Mom and Dad made their decision, Rachel continued. And I agreed with it. The estate needs someone responsible handling it. Not someone who runs away every time things get difficult. There it was. The oldest wound reopened with surgical precision. You don't get to talk to me about responsibility, Alex said, her voice trembling, not from fear, but from a fury that had been waiting years for release. You've been handed everything since we were kids. Mom and Dad let you walk all over them. Over me. And now you want to take the one thing grandfather meant for both of us. I'm not taking anything, Rachel replied coolly. I'm protecting what matters. Alex's pulse thudded in her ears. Protecting it from who? She demanded. Rachel hesitated again. A tiny hesitation, but enough to reveal truth in the cracks. My lawyer will be in touch, she said, suddenly brisk. Good luck, Alex. You're going to need it. The line went dead. Alex stared at the phone, her throat tight, her vision stinging. Oliver slowly moved to her side.
She planned this, he said.
All of it. Probably months ago. Alex pressed her palms to her eyes. I should have seen it coming. The weird calls. Dad avoiding my questions. Mom sounding stressed. And Rachel always so damn confident. The room felt smaller, suffocating. The storm clouds outside pressed against the windows. She stood abruptly, pacing the room. They can't just erase me, Alex said, her voice growing stronger with each step. Not from the estate. Not from what grandfather wanted. I won't let them.
Good, Oliver said.
Then we'll fight this. Alex stopped, turning to him. This is going to get ugly, isn't it? He nodded. People show their real selves when money's involved. And when favoritism is involved, Alex added quietly. She sank into a chair, the weight of the betrayal settling over her like a heavy coat she didn't ask to wear. Her life, steady, controlled, calm, had cracked open. What she thought was distant tension now erupted into something real, something with teeth. She looked down at the crossed-out name again and felt the first spark of defiance burn. For the first time in her life, Alex wasn't going to shrink. She wasn't going to play the quiet daughter, the forgotten daughter. She would fight. And this moment of betrayal, was only the beginning. The next morning arrived heavy and gray, as if the world itself knew what Alex was about to face. She stood at her kitchen counter, staring into a cup of untouched coffee. The steam curled up gently before dissolving into the cold air, almost symbolic of everything slipping through her fingers. Oliver sat at the table flipping through the documents again, his brow furrowed. Alex, he said quietly, you need to look at this part. I've looked, she murmured, her voice hollow. I've memorized it.
No.
This. He tapped a paragraph near the bottom. Rachel didn't just erase your name. She added a clause. A pretty sneaky one. Alex blinked and forced herself to focus. The paper crackled slightly as she held it. Inheritance to be transferred solely to Rachel under parental advisement and revised family agreement. Further modifications pending legal review. Pending review? Alex whispered. They're still changing things? Or planning to, Oliver said.
Fast.
Before you can contest it. A chill crept along her spine. They're trying to lock me out completely. Oliver nodded. They want you blindsided. The taste of betrayal rose bitter in her throat. She pressed her fingers against her temples, feeling the pulse of a headache that hadn't left since the night before. I can't believe they're doing this, she said softly. My own parents. Oliver hesitated. You know I'm with you in all this, but you should prepare yourself. If Rachel convinced them to sign something once, she'll do it again. Your parents trust her in ways they never trusted you. Alex closed her eyes. She knew he was right. She hated that he was right. The knock at the door startled them both. Alex's heart dropped. Please don't let it be. But it was. Her mother stood in the doorway, wrapped in a beige coat, her expression tight and controlled. The kind of face she wore when she was about to talk sense into someone. Alex, she said briskly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. We need to talk. Oliver shifted. Should I stay? Yes, Alex said immediately. No, her mother snapped. This is a family matter. Alex met her mother's eyes. Oliver is family to me. Her mother's lips twitched in disapproval, but she didn't argue.
Fine, she said.
Let's sit. But Alex didn't move. She stayed planted in the middle of the room, arms crossed, bracing herself like she was about to withstand a storm. Her mother exhaled sharply. I heard you called Rachel last night. She was upset. Good, Alex replied. She should be upset. She stole my inheritance. Watch your tone, her mother warned. We made a decision that benefits the family. Benefits Rachel, Alex corrected. Only Rachel. Her mother's gaze hardened. She's the one who takes care of us. She's the one who visits. She's the one who manipulates you, Alex cut in. Who always has. And now she's manipulating you into giving her everything grandfather intended for both of us. Her mother lifted her chin. Your grandfather's intentions don't matter anymore. We are the legal authority. The words slammed into Alex like a shove. Her mother continued, voice steady, almost rehearsed. You live your own life, Alex. You chose a different path. You've always been independent.
Detached.
You don't need the estate. That doesn't give you the right to erase me. Her mother paused, eyes narrowing just slightly, enough to show the smallest crack in her facade. Rachel is planning her future. Children. Stability. She needs the house. And I don't, Alex demanded. Her mother's silence was answer enough. The truth landed like a stone. Her parents never saw her future as something worth investing in. The humiliation burned. Alex stepped back, her voice trembling but sharp. If grandfather were alive, he'd be ashamed of what you're doing. Her mother flinched, barely but enough. Then she recovered, her tone cold as glass. You will not drag your grandfather into this. We're done here. She turned and walked out as decisively as she came. The door clicked shut. The apartment felt suddenly smaller, compressed by the weight of everything unsaid. Oliver approached her carefully. Alex. I need air, she whispered, grabbing her coat. They walked outside into a stiff wind that cut across her cheeks. The sky threatened rain. Cars hummed past. People rushed, unaware of the storm unraveling inside her. Alex leaned against a brick wall and closed her eyes. What if I lose? She whispered. What if they strip everything away? What if? Stop. Oliver touched her shoulder. You're allowed to be scared, but you don't get to give up. She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat growing. I don't want the house because of money, she said quietly. I want it because it's the last piece of my grandfather. The last place I felt seen. Oliver nodded. And that's why you can't walk away. A gust of wind blew her hair across her face. She brushed it back, exhaling shakily. She felt something shifting inside her. Something awakening. A quiet strength, simmering beneath the heartbreak. Her phone buzzed again. A text from a number she didn't recognize. Rachel has already filed additional paperwork. You're running out of time. Alex stared at the message, heart pounding. Who's that from? Oliver asked. I don't know, she breathed. But whoever it is, they know what's happening. And they were warning her. The realization struck like a spark in dry grass. Someone was watching.
Someone was involved.
Someone knew this fight wasn't going to be simple. Alex felt the suspense coil tighter around her, pulling her towards something bigger, something looming. Her world was tilting, shifting, escalating. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. It was a battle. And the hardest part was still ahead. Alex didn't sleep much that night. The hum of the city outside her window mixed with the echoes of the confrontation from earlier, and her mind refused to settle. Every tick of the clock sounded like a countdown, each one reminding her that Rachel was already a step ahead. She ran through scenarios, possibilities, strategies, but every plan felt incomplete, as if some hidden variable was missing. The first morning light cut through the curtains, pale and hesitant, illuminating the stacks of documents she had spread across her small dining table. Oliver had been there since dawn, silently reviewing legal clauses, annotations scribbled in the margins, the kind of meticulous detail only someone who truly cared could manage. He had become her anchor, her confidant, her shield against the storm threatening to sweep her off balance. You've got to rest, Alex, Oliver said gently, noticing her dark circles and tense posture. You can't fight on empty. I can't rest, she murmured, tapping a finger on the contract. Every hour they gain is a move against me. He sighed, but there was understanding in his eyes.
Fine.
But we need more than just paperwork. We need information, strategy, allies. Alex's jaw tightened. I know. I've been thinking about that too. But who? Everyone else in the family has sided with Rachel, or at least they act like they have. Just then, her phone buzzed. A text from her cousin, Daniel. Meet me at the cafe. I think I can help. Alone. Don't tell anyone. Alex's heart skipped. Daniel had always been quiet, reserved, and loyal in ways few people noticed. He had never been the sibling Rachel manipulated easily, nor had he succumbed to parental favoritism. And now he was offering support, potentially pivotal support, in the unfolding battle. At the cafe, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint aroma of pastries, calming the tension just slightly. Daniel arrived, looking as he always did, casual, unassuming, yet quietly authoritative. You called me? Alex asked. Daniel shook his head. You called me. Last night. Your messages were frantic. I've been keeping an eye on things. Rachel's moves are fast, but not perfect. They leave trails if you know where to look. Alex leaned forward. What do you mean? He tapped a folder he had placed on the table. Bank transfers, property adjustments, a few signatures. I've been tracking how they've tried to solidify Rachel's claim. It's sloppy. Amateurish, really. You can challenge this. Her chest tightened with relief, mixed with anxiety. You're helping me? I am, he said firmly. Because it's wrong. Because they're wrong. And because you're my cousin. I won't let them erase you. For a moment, Alex allowed herself to breathe, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. Then the door to the cafe opened, and a blast of cold air reminded her that the world outside wasn't kind. Daniel, Alex whispered. If they knew you were helping me, if Rachel finds out, this could get ugly. My parents. They won't find out, he interrupted. I've been careful. But you need to act fast. Rachel's legal team is aggressive. She's making moves right now. Alex swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Her fight had grown larger than herself. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about proving her worth, reclaiming her grandfather's trust, and standing up against favoritism and manipulation. As they strategized, a waitress brought over their coffees, and Alex absent-mindedly stirred the mug, watching the swirling patterns. Her thoughts drifted to her parents again. She had loved them deeply, but the betrayal cut so deep it felt almost physical. She remembered childhood afternoons spent in that very house, laughter echoing down the halls, promises made in whispers and tight hugs. How had it come to this? Daniel seemed to sense her turmoil. "Alex," he said gently, "you can't change what they think of you, but you can control what you do. Every step you take from here is a choice, and you're making them." She nodded, absorbing the words. A small seed of determination took root inside her, growing despite fear. Back at her apartment later, Alex discovered another unexpected twist. A letter slipped under her door and signed. The paper was thick, the handwriting elegant, deliberate. "You're not alone. Your grandfather's intentions weren't just about the house. There's a hidden will, one that even Rachel doesn't know about. Find it before it's too late." Alex's pulse quickened. She read the note 3 times, each repetition reinforcing her resolve. Hidden will? Could it be real? Her grandfather had been secretive in ways no one suspected. Perhaps he had left her a key, something that Rachel could never manipulate. Oliver leaned over her shoulder. "What is it?" Alex handed him the note. "Someone's giving me a warning. Maybe a clue. There's more than one path to fight this." The implications were dizzying. Not only did she have to reclaim the house legally, but now there was a potential treasure her parents and Rachel didn't know existed. The stakes had escalated, but so had her sense of purpose. Alex felt a surge of adrenaline. The subplots, the cousin's secret assistance, the hidden will, the clandestine messages, were all threads woven into the larger tapestry of conflict. Each revealed more about her family's dynamics. Each provided a new angle for her to approach the struggle. Sitting back in her chair, staring at the papers and the mysterious note, Alex whispered to herself, "I will not be erased. Not now. Not ever." Outside, the city moved on oblivious, but Alex's world had shifted. Betrayal, favoritism, hidden motives, they were all part of a bigger puzzle. And she was ready to solve it. Her parents had tried to write her out of her own inheritance. Rachel had underestimated her. But Alex was learning, growing, and gathering allies. She could feel the tide turning, slow but inevitable. And deep down, she knew, when the final confrontation came, she would not only fight for what was hers, but she would also reveal truths that had long been hidden, truths that would leave no one untouched. The next chapter of her life was unfolding. The risks were high, the emotions raw, and the stakes higher than ever. But for the first time in months, Alex felt like she had a map, and for the first time, she felt capable of navigating it. The phone slammed against the countertop with a force that rattled the small apartment. Alex stared at it, disbelief coiling in her chest. She could still hear the voice on the other end, Rachel's smooth, venom-laced tone echoing in her ears. "You really thought Daniel was on your side? That he'd keep secrets for you?" Alex sank onto the kitchen chair, gripping the edge so tightly her knuckles whitened. Her mind raced, piecing together every interaction, every reassuring word Daniel had whispered in confidence. Had it all been a lie? Betrayal tasted like ash in her mouth. Oliver appeared in the doorway, concern etched on his face. "Alex, what happened?" Her hands shook as she pressed the phone against her chest. He's been feeding her information. Daniel's been working for Rachel this whole time. Every lead, every clue, it was all to mislead me." Oliver's brow furrowed. "Are you sure?" Alex nodded, though the movement felt weak, fragile. "I should have seen it. I wanted so badly to believe that someone in the family would help me. I was blinded by hope. And now she's 2 steps ahead, and her voice cracked, and she buried her face in her hands. The apartment felt suffocating, the air heavy and oppressive. The notes, the folders, the plans, they all seemed suddenly meaningless. Rachel's cunning wasn't just in her legal maneuvering, it was in her manipulation, her ability to exploit trust, and Alex had walked right into the trap. Oliver stepped closer, placing a tentative hand on her shoulder. "Alex, listen. You're not alone. Yes, Daniel betrayed you, but that doesn't erase everything else you've done. We can still fight. We have to adjust." She looked up at him, tears glistening but determination flickering behind them. "Adjust? Adjust how, Oliver?" "Everything I counted on, it's gone. Daniel's not coming back. And Rachel, she knows I don't have all the pieces. She's going to strike while I'm weak. Oliver shook his head, firm but calm. Then we get stronger. We find the pieces she doesn't expect us to know exist. Remember the note? The hidden will? There's more than one path to win this. You've been reactive too long. Now we're proactive. Alex exhaled, shaky but listening. Her mind drifted to the apartment, the stacks of papers, the small framed photo of her grandparents on the shelf. They had always believed in fairness, in seeing justice done. Their legacy wasn't about favoritism, it was about integrity. Perhaps this betrayal, as crushing as it felt, was forcing her to tap into the strength her grandparents had always admired in her. Her chest tightened, anxiety clawing, but beneath it, a seed of resolve began to grow. "You're right," she whispered, voice barely audible. "I can't crumble now. I've fought too long, come too far. Daniel's betrayal, it hurts, but it won't stop me. Rachel won't get everything." The afternoon passed in a blur of frantic calls, reviewing documents, and strategic planning. Each step reminded her of the stakes, the inheritance, the house, the unspoken promises of her grandparents. Every revelation about Daniel's duplicity added layers of complexity, but also clarity. She couldn't trust blindly, couldn't rely on anyone without verification. Later, she walked to the balcony, the city skyline bathed in the golden glow of sunset, and tried to breathe. The air was crisp, smelling faintly of rain from the previous night, carrying a metallic tang that made her think of blood, not literal but symbolic, the blood of trust she had just spilled. Her inner voice whispered doubts, relentless and accusing. "You failed. You trusted the wrong person.
You're alone in this now."
But another voice, quieter yet insistent, rose up. "You're stronger than this. You've survived harder truths. This is just another test." She gripped the railing, letting the wind whip her hair across her face, and imagined Rachel lounging somewhere, smug, confident in her victory.
No.
Alex wouldn't allow that image to stand. She wouldn't let Rachel's cunning dictate her path. As the night descended, she returned inside to the scattered papers, reorganizing them meticulously, marking new leads, removing assumptions, reconstructing plans. Each movement was deliberate, each decision a defiance against despair. Oliver watched silently, giving her space while offering support in the quietest of ways. His presence reminded her that betrayal, while painful, didn't mean total isolation. She had allies, even if the numbers were fewer than she wished. Alex's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. "You've been misled, but all is not lost. Check the old safe. Your grandparents left more than memories there." Her breath caught. Hope, fragile but tangible, sparkled like embers in the dark. She had been knocked down, deceived by someone she trusted, but this was an opportunity, a chance to turn the tables. She sank into the chair, staring at the phone, the city lights twinkling like distant stars beyond the window. She felt the weight of the betrayal, the sting of failure, but also the stirrings of a renewed plan. Rachel's cunning had been revealed, Daniel's duplicity exposed, yet Alex realized something crucial. She was still standing. She still had her mind, her will, and a path forward she could carve herself. The night deepened, and Alex whispered to herself with quiet ferocity, "You can betray me, Rachel. You can try to break me. But I will rise. I will uncover what's hidden, I will claim what's mine, and I will not be defeated. Not by you. Not by anyone." And with that, she began mapping out the next move, every thought deliberate, every nerve alert. Betrayal had struck her, yes, but it had also sharpened her. And the final battle, when it came, would meet a version of Alex stronger, wiser, and unrelenting. Alex sat on the edge of the couch, the soft hum of the city outside mixing with the faint ticking of the clock. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear this time, but from the sheer weight of everything she had endured. The betrayal of Daniel, the manipulations of Rachel, the constant sense that the ground beneath her was shifting, all of it had forced her into corners she never imagined, but she was still here. She was still standing. Her mind wandered back to the mornings of her childhood, when her grandparents would sit her down with patience, teaching her the value of integrity, of seeing through deception, and of standing tall even when the world expected her to bow. She remembered the warmth of her grandmother's hands as she braided Alex's hair, whispering, "You have a mind sharper than you know. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." Those lessons, buried under layers of familial politics and betrayal, were surfacing now with crystal clarity. The apartment felt quieter than usual, the dim light from the street lamps outside casting long shadows across the room. She could smell the faint aroma of lavender from the candle she had lit earlier, calming her frayed nerves, grounding her. She closed her eyes, letting the scent mingle with her memories, and for the first time in days, allowed herself to breathe fully. Oliver came in quietly, carrying a stack of documents and a thermos of tea. "I thought you might need this," he said, placing both on the table before her. His presence was steady, reassuring, a reminder that while some had betrayed her, not all had. Alex smiled faintly, tracing her fingers over the edge of the teacup. "Thank you, Oliver. I've been thinking about everything, about how I let Daniel fool me, how I underestimated Rachel, and about myself." He tilted his head, curious. And, she said, voice firmer now, "I've realized that all of this, all of the deceit, the hidden agendas, the lies, it's forced me to grow. I can't rely on anyone blindly anymore. But I can rely on what I know, on what I've learned, and on the strength I didn't even realize I had." She thought of the hidden safe her grandparents had left behind, the cryptic messages and documents that had always seemed like puzzles for another day. That day had arrived. Rachel had revealed the depth of her cunning, Daniel had shown the dangers of misplaced trust, and Alex had learned the sharp edge of resilience. The apartment's walls seemed to echo with memories of laughter and arguments, small family dinners, and quiet evenings with her grandparents recounting stories of their own challenges. Alex felt a swell of emotion, grief for what had been lost, but also a fierce determination to reclaim what was rightfully hers. She leaned back, closing her eyes, and let herself replay moments from the past week. The shock of betrayal, the sinking feeling when she realized Daniel had been playing both sides, the small victories she had already achieved by staying one step ahead, each memory sharpened her resolve. She could almost see the patterns in Rachel's moves, anticipate her manipulations, and plan her countermeasures. Oliver spoke softly. "You're ready for this, aren't you?" Alex opened her eyes, looking at him with a mixture of gratitude and fierce determination. "I have to be. I won't let Daniel's betrayal or Rachel's schemes define the outcome. This inheritance, this legacy, it's more than property or money. It's about fairness, about proving that manipulation and favoritism don't get the final word. I'm not just fighting for myself. I'm fighting for what my grandparents believed in, for the principles they instilled in me." The room felt alive with possibility, every shadow now a reminder of challenges to be met, not fears to hide from. Alex rose from the couch, pacing slowly, her mind racing through scenarios, strategies, and contingencies. Each step, each thought, was deliberate, a preparation for the confrontation that would soon come. She paused by the window, watching the city lights flicker and blur in the gentle rain. The droplets sliding down the glass mirrored her own journey, sometimes streaked with pain, sometimes shining with clarity, but always moving forward. Oliver approached her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Whatever comes next, you're not alone. And remember," he hesitated, then smiled faintly, "you've always had what it takes." Alex nodded, feeling a surge of empowerment ripple through her. She thought of her grandparents' faces, their unwavering faith in her, and she felt their strength infuse her own. The betrayal had been harsh, but it had also illuminated the depth of her courage and the clarity of her mind. She would face Rachel not as a frightened woman, but as someone who had been tested, sharpened, and refined by adversity. Turning back to the table, she spread out the documents and began organizing them with renewed focus. Each file, each note, each hidden clue was a step toward reclaiming what was hers and exposing the truth. Every action she planned now was deliberate, every move calculated, every word measured. As the night deepened, she whispered to herself, almost as if her grandparents could hear. This time, I control the story. I will uncover everything, anticipate every move, and reclaim what is mine. Betrayal has taught me well, and I am ready. The rain continued to fall, a soft rhythm against the windows, a soundtrack to her resolve. Alex felt the transformation within herself, grief tempered by wisdom, fear replaced by strategy, hesitation replaced by decisiveness. The stage was set, and she was prepared for the final confrontation that would define the legacy of her family and her own strength. And in that quiet, powerful moment, she knew one truth with unwavering certainty. She would not be defeated, and she would not falter. Whatever came next, she would meet it with clarity, courage, and the unstoppable force of someone who had truly grown into their own power. Alex sat at the kitchen table, the soft glow of the lamp illuminating stacks of papers and legal documents spread before her. Her fingers traced the edges of the files as she exhaled slowly, letting her mind settle into a rhythm of planning and precision. The betrayal from the past week still stung, but it no longer paralyzed her. Fear had been replaced by focus, confusion by clarity. Tonight, she would stop reacting and start acting. Are you sure about this plan? Oliver's voice broke the silence. He stood near the doorway, arms crossed, the hint of concern in his eyes betraying the faith he had in her. Alex lifted her gaze, meeting his with quiet intensity. I have to be. Every step has to be deliberate, every move anticipated. Rachel won't see this coming. He nodded slowly, sensing her resolve. And Daniel? Alex's lips pressed into a thin line. I'll handle him. But right now, Rachel is the one pulling the strings, and I can't let her think she has the advantage. She thrives on assuming I'll hesitate, that I'll crumble. I won't. The city outside hummed with its usual night rhythm, lights flickering in distant windows, sirens wailing far off. Alex found a strange comfort in the contrast, the chaos beyond her walls and the meticulous order she was creating within them. She laid out a timeline, noting when she would need to speak with lawyers, when she would gather evidence, and when she would confront Rachel directly. Every detail mattered. Every small misstep could be costly. Her mind wandered briefly to her grandparents' lessons, the quiet wisdom that had guided her as a child. Measure twice, act once, they would say. Alex allowed herself a small smile, imagining their approving faces. She had learned more from them than she had realized. The betrayal she had endured now felt like a final test, a proving ground for all the lessons she had carried silently through her life. Oliver leaned over the table, examining her notes. This is meticulous. You've really thought of everything. I have too, Alex replied, voice steady. Rachel is cunning manipulative. She's used favoritism to her advantage for years. But she underestimates one thing, me. I know the family, the history, the people involved. I know how to anticipate her moves. And this time, I'll be one step ahead. The room was quiet again, save for the rustle of papers as Alex shifted files, arranging evidence of Rachel's past manipulations and favoritism. Photographs, letters, and notes, each piece a thread in the tapestry of truth she intended to weave. I need to call the lawyer tomorrow, confirm all the documentation, and make sure every contingency is covered, Alex continued aloud, almost as if speaking would solidify her plan in reality. Then I'll reach out to family members who have been silent until now. It's time they see the truth. Oliver smiled faintly, admiration softening his features. You've come a long way since all this started. I've never seen you so determined. Alex allowed herself a deep breath, letting the acknowledgement settle. Determined is different from desperate. I won't act out of anger or revenge. I'll act from strategy and clarity. That's how I win this, not by confronting blindly, but by ensuring every move counts. The night stretched on, and the apartment became a war room of sorts. Notes were pinned to the wall, timelines sketched in careful handwriting, photographs arranged by date and context. Alex moved with precision, checking, double-checking, refining every detail. The past week's setbacks, the hidden letters, the whispered threats, the subtle manipulations, had all been lessons in anticipation. Now those lessons became tools, weapons of foresight. As she reviewed the documents, she paused at a photograph of her grandparents, smiling gently at a family picnic long ago. The image brought a surge of emotion, grief mingled with determination. They had taught her the value of fairness, integrity, and strength in the face of adversity. She would honor that legacy. She would not let Rachel's cunning erase what was rightfully hers, nor would she let Daniel's weakness compromise her resolve. Oliver watched silently, the weight of the moment hanging between them. "You're ready for this," he said softly. "I have to be," Alex replied, voice firm. "The time for hesitation is over. Rachel has had her chances to manipulate, to twist, to control. This ends now. And when it does, it ends on my terms." She stood, stretching briefly, eyes scanning the room filled with the evidence she had painstakingly gathered. Each file, each note, each photograph represented not just a piece of paper, but a story, a truth that demanded recognition. She felt the weight of responsibility, but also the power that came with control, with knowledge, with strategy. The clock ticked toward midnight, and the city outside seemed to hold its breath with her. Alex poured herself a cup of tea, the warmth grounding her as her mind raced through potential scenarios. She imagined Rachel's smug confidence, her calculated smirks, her subtle intimidation. Alex smiled faintly at the thought. She knew that beneath that confidence, Rachel feared exposure. And Alex held the key to revealing it all. Oliver approached again, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. "No matter what happens, you're not alone. And whatever Rachel throws at you, she won't see you coming." Alex nodded, a quiet smile forming. "I know. And that's exactly how it should be. This is my fight, my strategy, my truth. And I won't let anything, no one, take it from me." The night deepened, shadows stretching across the room, but Alex felt a steady warmth inside, a growing certainty. The confrontation was approaching, the moment where strategy met opportunity, where preparation met courage. And for the first time since the betrayal, she felt entirely ready, not just to face Rachel, but to reclaim the power and legacy that had always been hers to protect. She looked out the window at the city lights, seeing them not as a blur of uncertainty, but as a constellation of possibilities. Every move she had planned, every thread she had traced, would soon converge. The stage was set. The pieces were in place. And Alex would step forward with clarity, courage, and the quiet force of someone who had learned from betrayal, from pain, and from herself. "You can't just take what's mine." Rachel's voice rang sharp and cold across the grand living room, the chandeliers flickering under the soft hum of the evening lights. Alex stepped closer, heels clicking on the polished hardwood, feeling each sound echo like a drumbeat in the tension-filled space. Every fiber of her being was alert, each breath measured, each step intentional. "I'm not taking anything that isn't already mine," Alex said evenly, letting the calm in her voice contrast the storm brewing between them. Her eyes scanned the room, taking in the expensive furnishings, the family portraits lining the walls, reminders of a legacy that had been manipulated for too long. "Your manipulations, your favoritism, this ends tonight." Rachel's lips curled into a smirk, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You think you've outsmarted me? After everything I've done, you really believe you can just walk in here and rewrite the rules?" She advanced, her presence like a live wire, radiating defiance and arrogance. Alex held her ground, letting the memory of her grandparents' wisdom anchor her. The lessons they had taught her, resilience, strategy, patience, were not abstract ideas anymore. They were weapons. "I don't need to rewrite the rules. I just need to prove them," Alex replied, voice steady. "And I have all the evidence I need." Rachel laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Evidence? Photographs, letters, whispers from family members. That's nothing compared to the power I hold. You don't understand. This is bigger than you." Alex's jaw tightened. She had prepared for this moment for days, mapping out every move, anticipating every retort. "No," she said firmly, stepping closer so that the space between them crackled with tension. "What you hold is temporary. What I have is truth, and it doesn't disappear because you want it to." The air in the room seemed to thicken, charged with the collision of two wills. Alex could feel her pulse in her temples, hear her own heartbeat in sync with the rapid rhythm of anticipation. Her palms were steady, but her mind raced through contingencies, what Rachel might say, what threats she could try, how she could maintain control without losing focus. "You really think the family will side with you?" Rachel sneered, stepping around a grand armchair, her heels echoing sharply. "They've always seen you as weak, predictable. They'll never believe you over me." Alex's gaze flickered to the portraits on the walls, images of grandparents who had believed in fairness, in integrity, in balance. She drew strength from them. "They'll believe what they see," she said softly but firmly. "And tonight, they'll see everything. Your favoritism, your lies, your manipulations. I'm done standing in the shadows. I'm done waiting." Rachel's eyes narrowed, realizing for the first time that Alex's calm was not weakness. It was resolve. "You think you've won before this even starts?" she spat. Alex shook her head. "I don't need to win tonight. I just need to show the truth. And when they see it, everything you've tried to control will crumble." The room seemed to hold its breath as Rachel paused, tension twisting her features. For a moment, Alex could almost hear the calculations running behind those sharp eyes, the internal struggle to maintain the facade of control. She sensed that the tide was shifting, and it thrilled her with a quiet power. Oliver, who had been standing near the doorway, finally stepped forward. "Alex has every right to be here," he said firmly, voice echoing in the silent room. "You've had your time manipulating. Now it's her turn to speak, and to be heard." Rachel's gaze flicked to him, a flash of irritation and disbelief crossing her face. "You always side with her, don't you?" she hissed. "I side with truth," Oliver said, unwavering. "And tonight, truth doesn't take sides. It only stands." Alex took a deep breath, letting the words settle around her like armor. The confrontation was not just about inheritance. It was about justice, about integrity, about reclaiming what had been denied to her for years. And she was ready. "Do you realize," Rachel said, voice lower now, almost a whisper, "that if this goes public, it could ruin all of us? The family, the legacy, everything?" Alex's expression softened slightly, almost compassionate but firm.
"Yes, I realize that."
"And I also realize that hiding the truth to protect selfishness is far worse than any temporary embarrassment or discomfort. I won't, let fear dictate our family's future anymore." For the first time, Rachel faltered. Her voice trembled slightly, a crack in the armor of confidence she had always relied on. Alex seized the moment, moving with measured grace, presenting the documents and photographs she had carefully gathered, laying them out where every witness could see. Each piece of evidence was a story, a moment of favoritism, a letter of manipulation, a photograph showing the truth Rachel tried to hide. The room was tense, every eye tracing the details. Alex could feel the weight of history pressing down, but she didn't waver. She narrated each piece, letting the evidence speak louder than any accusation could. Her voice was calm, but imbued with conviction, a quiet force impossible to ignore. Rachel's fists clenched at her sides, and she opened her mouth to interrupt, but the room had shifted. The whispers of family members, the disbelief on familiar faces, the undeniable weight of proof, it left her without words. Alex met Rachel's gaze once more. "This isn't about winning or losing," she said softly. "It's about what's right. And tonight, the right thing finally has a voice. Truth, of strategy, of courage." The confrontation reached a breaking point, and for the first time, Rachel realized that control was no longer hers. Alex had taken the center, and the balance of power had shifted irrevocably. The climax was not loud or violent. It was the undeniable emergence of truth, of strategy, of courage. Alex felt a surge of strength, of clarity, of purpose. This was the turning point she had prepared for, the moment where preparation met opportunity. And as she looked around the room, at the faces of those who had doubted and those who now saw the truth, she knew the resolution was near. The tension remained thick, but now it was different. It was the weight of revelation, of accountability, of inevitable consequences. And Alex stood ready, steady, and resolute, poised to see justice through, no matter the resistance. The stage was set. The confrontation had begun, and the outcome would change everything. Rachel's silence hung heavy in the room, the weight of the evidence pressing down on her like a tide she could no longer resist. The documents, the photographs, the letters, all of them spelled the truth in a language no manipulation could twist. Alex watched her carefully, heart still pounding, but now tempered by the clarity of purpose she had fought so hard to achieve. I never thought you'd actually do it, Rachel finally muttered, her voice low, fractured. She sank into one of the high-backed chairs, the elegant posture she had always relied on slipping away. I thought I controlled everything. Alex approached slowly, her footsteps measured, her gaze unwavering. Control isn't what makes a family strong, Rachel. Honesty, fairness, and respect are. You've forgotten that along the way. Rachel looked away, her eyes brimming, a mixture of guilt and shame. I only ever wanted what I thought was best, she whispered. I never wanted to hurt anyone. You did, Alex said softly, not accusing, but stating a truth neither of them could escape. And now it's time to fix it, or at least start to. She extended a hand toward the stack of documents, the inheritance plans, and the letters she had meticulously compiled. It's not just about who gets what. It's about fairness, about making things right, about respecting the choices of those who came before us. Oliver, standing nearby, nodded in silent support. You have a chance now, he added. A chance to restore balance, not just for yourselves, but for the family as a whole. Rachel swallowed hard, finally taking a deep breath. She looked at Alex, really looked, seeing not the rival she had tried to undermine, but the strength and integrity that had always been there, growing quietly beneath the surface. I don't know if I can change everything overnight, she admitted, but maybe we can try. Alex smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and quiet triumph. That's all anyone can ask. And it's a start. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, not from victory, but from the knowledge that she had stood her ground, had fought with integrity, and had seen truth prevail. The room was silent for a long moment, the tension easing into a fragile calm. The chandeliers above flickered softly, casting golden light across the polished floor, illuminating the faces of family members who had witnessed the confrontation. For the first time in years, the weight of favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation began to lift. Alex reflected on everything that had brought her to this point, the years of feeling overlooked, the quiet determination to seek justice, the careful planning, and the unwavering support of those who truly cared. She realized that the fight had never been just about inheritance. It had been about claiming her voice, her agency, and her dignity. And tonight, she had done just that. Rachel finally rose from her chair, tentative, almost fragile. I suppose there's a lot I need to make right, she said, voice steadier now. Not just with Alex, but with the rest of the family. And you will, Alex said gently, as long as you keep truth at the center. That's the only way forward. She could see the shift in Rachel, a humility she had never thought possible. It was not total reconciliation yet, but it was a beginning. Oliver stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on Alex's shoulder. You did it, he said simply. You faced everything, the lies, the manipulations, the fear, and you came out stronger. Alex nodded, a quiet smile touching her lips. It wasn't easy, but I've learned something important. Strength isn't about holding power over others. It's about standing firm, acting with integrity, and refusing to let fear decide your path. The family, once fractured by favoritism and secrecy, now began to murmur, cautiously, acknowledging the shift. Decisions were reconsidered, old grievances aired, and for the first time, a sense of fairness and transparency began to take root. The inheritance would now reflect not just financial division, but the respect for those who had built the family legacy with care and intention. Alex looked around, taking in the faces of those she loved and those she had challenged. She felt a surge of gratitude and empowerment. The battle had been long, painful, and fraught with uncertainty, but she had discovered her own resilience, her ability to navigate complex emotions, and her capacity to act decisively with both heart and mind. Rachel met her gaze again, this time without defiance. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for showing me that there's a better way." Alex's lips curved into a calm, confident smile.
"No, Rachel.
"Thank you for giving me the chance to stand up, to speak, and to be heard. This family deserves that honesty." As the night deepened, the family slowly gathered in the room, a tentative unity forming, fragile but promising. Alex felt the weight of the past lift slightly, replaced by the possibilities of the future. She knew challenges would still come, but she also knew that with integrity, clarity, and courage, she could face anything. She stepped to the window, looking out over the estate that had been the center of so much tension. The moonlight glinted on the polished surfaces, the trees swayed gently in the evening breeze, and the world outside seemed calm, almost reflective. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the empowerment ripple through her. She had reclaimed her voice, stood for truth, and turned a legacy of conflict into a lesson of strength. And in that moment, she understood something profoundly simple yet powerful. The measure of a person is not in what they inherit, but in the courage they display when confronted with injustice and the integrity with which they claim their own path. With her heart steady and her mind clear, Alex knew the future was hers to shape. And this time, it would be guided by wisdom, resilience, and unwavering authenticity, a legacy she could be proud of. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to Voice of Jenna so you never miss the next chapter in our world of twists, lessons, and unforgettable moments. Your support means the world to me, and trust me, the stories only get better from here.